So we obtain the optical data, but we also use advanced thermographic techniques to obtain internal data of blade condition. So we can see all the way down to the spar cap, we can see all the way down to the inner side of the skin of, let's say, a pressure or suction side of the blade, and assess core material condition, composite material condition. We can start to identify delaminations, bad bonding, cracks, wrinkles, lining damage. The suite of things that we can detect are huge.
Can you just begin by telling us a little about yourself, Minerva Energy, and its global partnership with ABJ Renewables?
So we're sort of coming up on 18 months old now.
Okay.
Previous to forming the company, I've worked in offshore operations for years, specifically in wind and in the O&M sector. So really specializing in the development and implementation of advanced operating models, where we look at optimizing the relationship between OEM controlled sort of setups and in-housing to owner control ultimately, and how that really affects the risk profile of the asset, but also how you can optimize both OPEX and CAPEX in that process. So in forming Minerva Energy, what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring a service provider to the industry that understands that operational side of the business. So we can provide solutions to a number of issues, but by delivering them almost as an operator would expect them to be delivered. So really bringing a kind of a different perspective to that service provision.
What's the issue in the market? What solution are you providing? How is that different to what's on the market?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a number of things going on in the industry right now that I think are pivotal points that we need to address. And one of them is the alarming increase in rate in catastrophic blade failures, right? And we're seeing this across turbine types, across onshore, across offshore, new assets, old assets, especially now as we're getting towards, these really large sort of plus 10 megawatt size assets. We're seeing blade design change quite significantly as we have to employ lighter materials and different methodologies. And that is resulting in more failures, right? We're seeing it, and it's well known. And if we look at the offshore sector, the logistic complications with offshore, with getting hold of jack-up barges and the like, and wait time, we're into hundreds of thousands, if not close to millions of pounds to do a blade replacement. And what we need to do is we need to be significantly more intelligent in the way that we manage the front end of blade issues. And our partnership with ABJ Renewables is kind of bringing forward a brand new solution to the industry to help us do that. And that's through combined optical and thermal inspections, where we're able to see up to 15 centimeters deep now within the blade material to assess condition way before any failure modes come to the surface. So we can really move blade maintenance from the reactive position that it's in today into a proactive place, where you can start to intelligently plan how you're going to approach blade repair campaigns, or perhaps when you want to consider doing a blade replacement.
What are the key advantages of using your type of technology?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's an interesting one as well, because ultimately we got two different sides of the field that we're playing here, right? So we've got the standard optical type inspection, so what would be classed as your routine inspection. Now we're using drones again for this, but we're relying purely upon optical data. So that provides us some level of information, but it's very superficial. We're looking at the surface of the blade. When there is an issue, it's almost too late, right? You have to have a serious intervention at that point, whether it's a repair or whether it's a replacement, whatever that looks like. The other end of the spectrum is the NDT piece, which is great. It provides fantastic data, but it requires a huge amount of downtime, often guys on ropes, elevated platforms, a lot more logistical equipment to be able to apply that, right? And you can't really do it at scale. So what our system does is it sits in between both of those. So we obtain the optical data, but we also use advanced thermographic techniques to obtain internal data of blade condition. So we can see all the way down to the spar cap, we can see all the way down to the inner side of the skin of, let's say, a pressure or suction side of the blade, and assess core material condition, composite material condition. We can start to identify delaminations, bad bonding, cracks, wrinkles, lining damage. The suite of things that we can detect are huge. We had a really interesting comment from one of the clients that we worked with in the summer, and we presented the data to him, and he was like, wow, it's like an MRI scan of a blade. How crazy is this? It just allows you to do your operations and maintenance actions around your blades in a completely different way.
You mentioned obviously your partnership with ABJ Renewables. You're UK based. Where are you seeing the market yourselves? Are you a global company? Are you European based? US based? You know, how are you seeing the market?
So we're global partners with
Yep.
ABJ. So we provide all of their on-site operational elements to any projects that they conduct
Yep.
across the global scale. So for example, we just did a large project recently in Uzbekistan,
Yep.
a place that we weren't expecting to work this year, but it was a fantastic project. We have got a project that we're mobilizing this week to Sweden. We've done projects in the UK. We're talking to sites in Canada at the moment. We're talking to sites in the US. It's a global solution to a global problem.
Yep.
And that's the thing, because we're seeing these types of blade issues everywhere.
Yeah.
What we need to do is really disrupt, I think, the inspection process and the inspection industry. What we're trying to do is to change the order
Yep.
in which the costs sit around blade maintenance.
Yep.
At the moment, it's all backloaded.
Yep.
It's loaded around the repair,
Yep.
right? Okay, so we do an inspection. We do an inspection at a point where there is a loss of work or time or money that needs to go into investing in that
Yeah.
repair. Interestingly, what happens is, you know, from an optical, it's really hard to determine the scale of the repair that you're going to do. So we also put in blade repair organizations in a complicated position, because they'll turn up the site.
Yeah.
They have to take everything that they think they might need.
Yep.
Once they're on the ropes, if they haven't got it, it's complicated. You've got a client that wants to reduce downtime.
Yeah.
You know, so we're making it really back heavy in terms of the cost.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is increase and improve the way that we do the inspection piece on the front end.
Yep.
And then reduce that cost on the back end.
Yep.
So that it has significant benefits from a revenue and a production side of things, but more importantly, also on the OPEX and CAPEX side of things.
Yeah.
OPEX, because we reduce the operational cost of the asset over
Yep.
time, and the CAPEX piece, because we significantly reduce the need for unplanned main component exchanges. That's where the cost
So dealing
sits.
with it at source essentially, rather than going all the way through to even spending even more money later down the line.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I think the interesting part is then that it leverages so many other benefits as well. When you look at it from the operator's perspective, when you plan a blade campaign,
Yep.
you want to understand, you know, at the start of the year, really, as early as you can, you want to be understanding how long each repair is going to take, so that you can model your downtime on that particular turbine. You want to know the type of materials that you're going to use, so that you can, you know, leverage the supply chain and make sure you've got the right core material in, the right types of laminate, you've got the right adhesives in place, all of this stuff. The more information you have at point of planning the task, the significantly more effect you have on the overall operation of that asset in reducing that downtime, planning it better, communicating with trading departments better. You know, it allows the whole ecosystem of operations around blade repair to completely change.
Why aren't people doing it right now? Is it a case of it's not necessarily new technology? Is it just people have been doing it a traditional way or you know, a different way, and it's now a case of trying to re-educate them, get them to understand what it is you're doing and the benefits of that?
Yeah, again, I think there's two layers to this answer, right? The thermal technology has really come on significantly in the last few years.
Yeah.
So ABJ first deployed their system and designed their system 10 years ago, around 2015. At that time, drones were really new into industry. Thermal sensors on drones were very young. So ABJ were building really, really expensive bespoke assets to be able to obtain this data.
Yeah.
The position has completely changed with technology now. Now we have real usable platforms that are commercially available and sensors that, with a little bit of adjustment, nothing crazy, sort of tweaking them to our needs, we have a lot more available equipment to go and obtain this data. Now, when you combine that with all the significant work that ABJ have done in the area of artificial intelligence and really using thermographic science to dive into these images and optimize the images. This is where the ABJ system is completely different to anything else on the market. The clarity and the granularity of data that it provides is completely different to anything out there. We're at a threshold point now where this technology really is starting to produce the results that change the game. So there's that piece. And then I think also on the flip side of that, there's the status quo. Right, so back in the day, years ago, we used to stand on top of the nacelle with a little digital camera, take a picture of the blade. Okay, the blade's still there. That was kind of the expected maintenance protocol for blades. Now we've learned that that isn't the case, and that they don't last 25 years without intervention, and we do have a lot of issues. So what we've done really, I think, as an industry, I think both in the inspection industry and the O&M operations side of the business, is we've innovated in the wrong direction. Okay, so we are providing data optically. Again, as I say, it's very, very difficult to ascertain high-level, action plans from that. The way the industry has moved is towards automated inspections. So still using optical data, but automating the process. Now, that does a couple of things. It makes the data acquisition process easier. It makes it more predictable. That's fantastic. And really the main benefit that is being sold from that is the reduction in time. So a standard optical inspection maybe takes 30 minutes, 40 minutes, right? Same time as it would take us to do a thermographic inspection.
Okay.
With an automated system, you're perhaps down to a claimed 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting point is that when we're doing these inspections, the value to the client doesn't sit in the time.
Okay.
Okay. So when you look at overall downtime on an asset related to scheduled maintenance, so things like service, transformer room inspection, statutory inspection, blade inspection, all of these things that, we do every single year or every 6 months that are the standard, keep the asset running inspection work, all of the planned work, results in less than 0.5% of downtime.
Okay.
Okay. By reducing a blade inspection from 40 minutes down to 15 minutes has such a insignificant impact on downtime of the asset for producing exactly the same amount of data set.
But that's where the claims are being made.
Exactly, yeah. So this is why having that little bit of extra downtime, 30 minutes as we've got at the moment, but producing data that is, tens, if not hundreds of times more valuable.
Yeah.
Because especially when we combine the thermal and we combine the optical together, and those go into the AI system for analysis, really just, layering those together completely changes the game. And then we always have a human in the loop. So we always have a blade engineer that's also reviewing alongside a thermographer. Yep. We're changing the game when it comes to blade inspection. And we're opening up so many opportunities for owners, operators, OEMs, blade repair companies to improve their processes and their systems, which, once you scale that, can have a huge industry benefit.
What's the biggest hurdle you're currently facing right now? Is it just work, like getting people to know it, getting people to know know the technology? What's the biggest hurdle?
One of the issues that we have right now, so to do an inspection like this is slightly more expensive than a standard optical inspection, okay? But what we need people to understand and really to drive forward is this difference of what we're doing is we're basically changing the position of where the cost is to a slightly more, much more advanced, but slightly more expensive inspection process that saves on the back end of the repair and downtime and replacement, element of the operations maintenance around blades hugely. So all you're doing is taking a little bit of the money that you're spending at the back end and put it at the front end, but saving a ton on the other side. Okay. And these are the fundamental changes that we need to make in our industry today around intelligent operations and maintenance, data-driven operations and maintenance. We know that the industry is in a complicated place now across a lot of fronts, right? We're seeing, a difficult supply chain situation. We're seeing a complicated subsidy sort of situation across the entire, global industry and specifically in the
landscape, financial landscape.
All of this stuff is making it really complicated. And what we need to do is continue to improve our operations and maintenance processes to make sure they feed back into the project development processes, which then helps the entire life cycle of an asset from the CapEx position to the OpEx position. And it needs to be this continual learning, so this learning loop, this kind of a continual improvement process where we feed into each side of development and operations. And these are the type of systems that we need to develop and deploy to allow us to do that as an industry.
Perfect. Well, I'm in. All right, pleasure speaking to you. Thank you.